kumaliza kutoka Kenya hii shida na aibu ya uhalifu na kutojali sheria.
We have to work hard so that we can justify the faith, the commitment, the sacrifice you have made to make us.
Kumaliza kutoka Kenya hii shida na aibu pollution of Athi River. Studies have been done by students, master's and PhD levels, but also there have been a few requests, individual requests, to take some samples from different sites within the Athi River watercourse. And the result is in university libraries and other places. And therefore, we are staring at an environmental problem of monumental proportion. However, it is the first time through your committee that a comprehensive analysis, chemical analysis of the samples from Athi River is being sought from the government chemist. I applaud this committee and the petitioners who have brought this petition before you, because I think time has come for us to face the reality that unless we stem the food chain, they can be transmitted even intergenerational, in an intergenerational manner. So we have a major problem of pollution there. Anybody who wants to hide that fact does not think well for our country. Now, as I have said, there have been studies, and also there have been requests to the government chemists by individual citizens to have samples tested. The outcome of some of those studies indicate that the waters of Athi River may be contaminated with possibly municipal waste, that is waste from household, commercial, and demolition waste, hazardous waste from industrial effluents, biomedical waste coming out of clinical waste, and special hazardous waste, some of which could be potentially radioactive, and e-waste. The industrial waste that could form some of those pollutants, some of them actually are heavy metals, is coming from some of the manufacturing industries, including pharmaceutical industries, industries dealing with cosmetics, plastics, synthetic fibers, industries manufacturing paints, cleansing agents, and other consumer projects, which release chemical waste, which eventually find their way into human and environmental systems. As I have said, some of these chemicals may find or have been found to have found their way into the food chain, and this disrupts the biotic cycle and is a major public health hazard. From metal industries, food processing industries, pharmaceutical industries, tanneries, pesticides, petroleum industry, cyanides and other compounds, sulfur compounds, etc., etc. There has also some studies have shown presence of organic in terms of components like phenols, high acidity, and and allied product industry, rubber and plastic industry are also responsible for some of the pollutants, which includes hydrocarbons, so heavy metals. The government chemist department has the human capacity and the technical capacity to carry out chemical analysis, any other nature that our country may require. Honorable Chair, I didn't believe this until we have hundreds of people in the Shakahola massacre. And so far, which has gone on in that scene of crime, including the chemical, DNA, and other analysis of teams of Kenyan agencies led by the government chemist of the Republic of Kenya. There is no single foreign expert. I have seen the work that they have done. It meets international standards. And I am persuaded that the kind of work they've done in that space will help us unearth the truth on what happened in that incident. Therefore, I have taken time to look at the department, and I want to assure you, Chair, this request of an analysis of the pollution over the river is a request that the government chemist department can ably provide answers to. However, Chair, the main challenge in that department has been budgetary allocation. And I know they are constrained. We are trying to support them. We're trying to modernize a little bit of their equipment and usables. But in terms of human capacity, in terms of technical capacity, we have a good department and they can carry out this task. Already, as I have said, a few requests have been made on this subject matter and they have been able to test. But you know, again, for a study to generate, for an analysis to generate the kind that would be encompassing and would lead to policy decisions, you need a more detailed, maybe enough sites, enough samples, and that kind of thing. But the challenge has been the budget. Therefore, Honorable Chair, the issue of an analysis, the answer is yes, with the caveat that the resources may not be adequate. And finally, on the issue of compensation, I would say that perhaps the Act of 1999, which is one of the most robust environmental legislations, caters for some of these issues. In particular, the polluter pays principle is whereby an analysis of this nature, if it is done, resulting to identification of particular polluters, generally, if it is the chemical, those who are discharging chemical effluents and they are manufacturers, we call them manufacturer A, B, sources of pollution, we name them, whether they are companies or individuals. If we visit the polluter pays principle, then our NEMA has the mandate to enforce and penalize businesses. And out of those penalties, then those who may have been affected by the pollution of the river could be compensated. To the best of my mind, that is the framework that perhaps can help us to achieve justice, environmental justice, in the very likely event that some of our people may have been subjected to toxic and polluting substances by unscrupulous business people who violate our environmental laws, discharging toxic pollutants into the river. Mr. Chair and the members, I want to leave it at that. If a request is made, I want to commit, because I've already said there's a budgetary constraint for the department, and it's big. In the event that this committee and the House adopts a request for an analysis, a chemical analysis of appropriately constituted sample of the pollution of this river. It will only be done after we estimate how much that would cost, and the experts can, even the department can generate that cost, so that the resolution of the committee, if it goes the issue that there will be a budget implication, and because the budgeting process is more or less over, I want to undertake to this committee that perhaps if the budget is reasonable, reprioritize from our security operations budget without affecting the already agreed budget, because I think this is a national challenge that requires, so as a ministry, we are willing, if the budget is ascertainable and modest, to do internal reallocations to support the government chemists to carry out.
Thank you, CS, for your very elaborate response. At this point, I'll give it to honorable members to interact with you. On 3-4 months, we've been on the ground in Mavoko and also in the rural Mwala along the river. So they have a lot. They know.
In charge of safety and security of our people, and having discovered from this report that the river is seriously polluted, and this may be affecting or may have affected, it must even have led to the death of some of our people. What is it that you want to do as an emergency measure to stop this from happening? Thank you.
Yeah, Honorable Slaya.
This river Athi, they are very well known to you and to the general public. What measures are they? Thank you.
Honorable Edith.
Thank you, CS, for the good presentation, and also accepting that there are problems. But number of companies which have been polluting the river, and are the locations well known where they are. Materials which have been discovered in this river from the analysis. I may not know the exact from farm that they are carcinogenic materials. Then I also actually went downstream and saw that the people are really affected. I don't know whether the ministry, as you've also indicated, than damages, whether the state is ready to compensate. Thank you.
Honorable Susan.
Thank you, Mr. CS, for that valuable input. My concern is the role of government chemists in ensuring that we get timely information in addressing issues like that. This may be because the river runs through my constituency, but I'm wondering if we are to wait for a petitioner to do a red flag for us to know something is wrong in this country. And where is the missing gap in relation to the government chemistry and issues that affect our people on ground? Because how many other cases like this would we be having in this country? So, where is the gap?
So, allow me to give Waziri to take the...
It's our responsibility to ensure public safety and is achieved. I agree with the members. However, Chair, environmental degradation, the lead agency is NEMA. What we do is to support NEMA to enforce the breaches to environmental law, the other environmental laws. The lead agency is NEMA, and I'm not trying to shift blame. I'm just trying to say that perhaps we need greater coordination or limited. You need an analysis, it's like almost an academic exercise. It's an intellectual work. We want to know whether this water is pure. Once the results are out, I don't think the matters enforcement, matters of follow-up is the rest of us, the other government agencies. So I think this is where the money will come from. What are we doing, like, immediately? What we will do is that we'll instruct our security, the county security teams from the entire riparian counties, the contiguous counties, which are not many. It is Nairobi, it's Machakos, Makueni. Ask them to give us because at that level all government agencies, including NEMA, whether a rapid initiative on how we can scale up the enforcement. Actually be the one to convene those committees, all of them, in my office within the next 1 week. And in the meantime also, now demand from NEMA that they should supply us with the enforcement requests. Because as I've said, maybe, because I'm not privy to that information where I sit, but maybe there are some known sources of this pollution. And maybe the challenge has been to enforce, to help them, or rather to have them stop this discharge. That's what we would do in the interim. But I believe also from the anecdotal evidence that I have received that there are so many even unknown pollutants who have not been brought into the fore. And that's why it's important and investigate and even put proper investigative teams, which can be even police-led, to maybe targeting only 1 or 2 known sources of pollution. But in the meantime, those that are already known, established, and want to sit down with NEMA and have a rapid initiative for enforcement, because the lead agency for environmental enforcement is NEMA. We just supply the enforcement mechanism. In terms of for the satisfaction of the committee, I can undertake to do that in 7 days, and through the channels I can write a written statement of the action, this process and recommendation.
Honorable Ogese.
Thank you, Chair. Response. My first concern, I think you seem to have taken care of it. I was concerned that this exercise must be multi-agency. In your presentation, you were more or less talking about your ministry. But in your response to the questions by my colleagues, I think you've referred to that, so I'll not pursue. My second concern goes to the gentleman from Government Chemist. As a matter of interest, can you just tell us when you last did your test on this river?
No, just take down the question. Honorable Maro.
That prosecutorial we have and restoration, compensation. All that we do have, and I know there is one that you mentioned, which is budgetary, which is a challenge. As I ask this question, I would be asking you to help and advise this committee so that when we retreat to write our report, so that we get to know exactly where we are missing it in your own understanding, because you're quite a senior person.
cannot be touched. Is this department or this pollution, the pollutants are also the cartels that the president was mentioning that they cannot be touched? I now want to believe that there is a relationship between river pollution and the rising number of cancer cases in Kenya. I now want to believe. Why, if you read the law, seems that NEMA has a responsibility. What has government done if it is not working? Because we agree that looks like it's not working. Is the of the authority, are they also untouchable? So I want to understand from you. Do you think that the problem is corruption? Then we go head on and see, probably we may need now to enhance the penalty in MCA, like China, imposing death penalties for every pollutant. Maybe we should take those
requests are from the either industry or the public health or individual people who just want to know their results. So it's something that we keep testing every now and then. It's not specific for the river, but mostly people who are when somebody submits these samples to us, we give the results to that person. We don't normally share it out. I think it's beyond us. You come for your public health that are interested in some investigations they're doing. So it's a continuous activity.
Yeah, over and above what as clients. So they go, they present the samples, they get the results, and that's it. So at least, even as I've said, we...
Order, Waziri.
Maybe I should be specific. Have you ever done any test for NEMA, and when was the last one?
And I still maintain that my understanding of the law, NEMA is the lead agency. It is responsible for coordination of all government functions in the counties across the country, and also under the National Government Coordination Act to develop like a rapid response on remedial measures, even as we wait for long-term recommendations and solutions. I agree with the member who said that so many matters, and I think it's a national problem. It's not even a problem that you can attach to any particular administration or any particular government agency. And we must confront that national challenge from wherever we are. And the minister, we have to do something about it. We cannot appear to be helpless. And therefore, what focus and oversight, now that it has been brought to our attention, and we will find a way. I have, when I got this petition, I was able to look at some of the studies that have been done even by private researchers. Some of the studies conclude in the affirmative. Some of the studies which I've seen myself, not through science. Science is science. Science is not political. Science is science. If a scientist tells you this substance that it's alarming and it's something that I should take up, and we should take up as government. So as to the internal, anything else that we are doing out there. About 6 months ago, Chair, I established a water resources protection, not largely environmental, at the point at which that, for example, we have certain sources of water or certain water treatment facilities, which, if contaminated, I'm now beginning to be persuaded that perhaps we can expand the mandate of that unit, not only to protect the critical water infrastructure, like Sasumwa Dam and other so many places, especially the hazardous kind of pollution is in urban centers, and water, the level of toxins, the level of pollution, the level of the environmental damage is greater for rivers an accumulation of industries and other manufacturing plants. So perhaps we will review as an interim measure the mandates and scope of the water resources. A question has been asked as to be a factor in why the enforcement has been weak or ineffective. I think and that national challenge is called corruption. And that national challenge is in many sectors, in many agencies, and that is the truth. And with all the senior officers in all the state departments and all the agencies in the ministry. And I've made it clear that we must, the Kenya Prison Service, whether it is whatever agency of government, and I think there are public issues. But the problem, there are few. We have others whose work is to, I will personally, perhaps have my personal engagement across that water course. And person is on the same category with a terrorist. It's only that their method of causing death is different. So the same way I've managed the other situations which I'm trying to manage.
Presentation the Waziri has given us. My question goes to the government chemist. Maybe after you have done, which agency is in charge of the compliance check? So that whatever is released to the river is exactly. It can happen that whatever you have tested, okay, maybe it is okay. But whatever
whoever has asked for them, their work ends there. In matters of enforcement, as I have said, it is somewhere between the police, national government administration officers, and NEMA and everybody else. And I have said the buck stops here. As the minister responsible for coordination of government functions, the buck stops here. And we'll take up this matter, which I think has been brought this far, and maybe I should come back after a few months to report progress. And Chair, the Honorable Jenze had asked me about compensation, and by saying that for environmental protection, the easiest and most legal route is to use the environmental. Someone needs to be identified as a polluter, as a persistent polluter under the Act, designated as such by NEMA enforcement. So once we establish this, the culprits, and we have a credible evidence-led list, we can move to
not only trying to respond to concerns by members, but also you are committing to take up the matter and take action. That really, Machakos, Warma, all these people, the EPZD, and they have challenges, which is a coordinating body of these are facing. Let's take, for example, NEMA. In the whole of Machakos, NEMA has 2 officers. From Mulongo all the way to Masinga, Katangi huko, NEMA has only 2 officers. They have no vehicle, they are underfunded. So that's a challenge, and that is a real one, even if someone has upstream, especially all the way to Kilimambogo, in Matungulu. Then you come upstream to Nairobi, because Nairobi River ends up to Tana River, Truad River. And identification of the pollutants, looking at compensation, it's not a big challenge, especially for the ministry you run. It is very possible, because I believe these things are first stopping emission of waste to the river, then followed up by cleaning what has been left. Then stated earlier, we have several kinds of emissions, waste, which end up to the river. And basically the human waste and the industrial waste. The human waste is from industry, is from estates, formal estates, formal settlements, and also informal settlements. You find an informal settlement which has a water path all the way to the river. And you know what happens in these informal settlements and what flows to the river. Then we have these organized settlement areas, estates. The provision by NEMA for an organized estate is to provide what they called before you release the waste to the sewer line. As in, you are required to treat up to some percentage before you release the waste, and it runs to a treatment plant. Most of these estates don't have ETPs. Their ETPs are, it is very clear, if we had an agency to go inspecting with authority the ETPs, you will find that they are not working. NEMA has written to the underfunding and also understaffing. Then we came to learn that the treatment plant for 100% of whatever industrial waste is in Mavoko is ending up to that sewer, to that treatment plant, which is not meant for waste when it ends up to the actually it's in Kenania, to be specific, to the Kenania treatment plant. So they don't treat it because it's not about an extension of time to look into this matter. I think you are our last witness so that we can come up with a report. So as you go in, this one I wanted to, the only source of Gwake Dam, the only source of Gwake Dam is at the river. Human waste, they get there, they react. I don't know, the last time I was in a lab, you would get a chemical A, then plus chemical B, then they will give you a chemical C, which lights, it becomes fire. That's what we are looking at Gwake Dam, which is a mega investment by this government. We can't get to launching Gwake Dam before stream, but also the people in Nairobi. You will have to eat skuma, you will have to eat nyamachoma, coming from Makueni, coming from Kitui, and those cows have taken this water. Father, who is working in Nairobi, and he has a family in Jemahoho, is affected, and he dies, then his kids are left orphans. That's what we are doing to. So it's, whoever learned about Michuki never meant any new law. Michuki never came to Parliament to ask for a new legislation. Michuki and the pieces of legislations which could help him clean up the matatu sector, as in, and as in the government multi-sectoral operation kind of approach was taken without any new law being linked to it, because these people are lacking goodwill. These people just is lethargy. They don't want to work. These people need to put some senses in mind that you as an EMA officer, this river is killing people. If you don't know that, then you need to know from today. Because I wanted to refer you to Michuki. The river needs a Michuki approach. The time is enacted to law that you can use it to enforce. Imagine what will be happening to our people. So use what is available, bring people around. I know you have the goodwill of the president. You have the submission of the analysis. I know Wazir will look for money. He has connections. Even challenges. At least we've divided the river into like 4 or 5 sections. If we can get around samples from 5 areas, Nairobi, Mavoko municipality, Kelemambogo area, then Mwala, then before Dwake. If we could get samples tested from those 5 areas, then now we can have some results to indicate in our, which basically will end up to you, because you are the implementing agency. So, because Parliament cannot pay, Parliament cannot be a client. The report of the analysis